FutureCast.
Whoa. Landing an account this big will totally change my landscaping business. It's gonna mean hiring more guys and more equipment and new trucks for the new guys to drive the new equipment in. I don't know if I'm ready.
You can do this, and Ford Pro FinSimple can help. Our experts are ready to make growing pains less painful for your business with flexible financing solutions that meet the needs of your business today when you need them. Get started at fordpro.com/financing.
This episode is brought to you by La Quinta by Wyndham. Your work can take you all over the place, like Texas. You've never been, but it's going to be great because you're staying at La Quinta by Wyndham. Their free Bright Side breakfast will give you energy for the day ahead. And after, you can unwind using their free high-speed Wi-Fi. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you shine. Book your stay today at lq.com.
This week on the Deep Leadership Podcast.
We've gone through massive disruptions technologically before that if you look at history, while things are always a little bit different, things still come and go in rhythm.
Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Well, I hope all is well with you today. It's another beautiful day here in North Carolina, and I'm enjoying a hot cup of coffee from our friends at the Salty Sailor Coffee Company. Salty Sailor is a veteran-known coffee brand and is the official coffee of the Deep Leadership Podcast. Listeners get 10% off their amazing selection of fresh roasted coffee by going to saltysailorcoffee.com and entering the code DEEP at checkout. Today's episode is also brought to you by our other sponsors, Leader Connect, Ignite Management Services, and Liberty Strength. All these sponsors help me bring these shows to you each and every week, so I highly encourage you to click on their links below and check them out. In this week's episode of the Deep Leadership Podcast, I'm joined by Garik Tate. Garik is an AI futurist, and we sat down and talked about how companies and leaders need to be deploying AI now and in the future. AI is here to stay, so every leader needs to be thinking about what to do with this important new resource. Now, if you're a leader, you need to hear this important conversation. So are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former Cold War submarine officer who spent 20 plus years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Are you ready for some real-world actionable advice from John as well as his expert guests?
I'm ready.
The show starts right now.
Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Garik Tate. Garik is an AI futurist, investor, and strategy consultant. His expertise lies at the intersection of AI, IQ, and EQ. He helps businesses increase their value using AI. With over a decade of experience as a successful entrepreneur, Garik has founded companies spanning software development, outsourcing, and publishing. Garik is a sought-after speaker on AI's future and its practical applications in business. Now, I'm excited to have him on the show to talk about how companies and leaders need to be thinking about AI and how to deploy AI going forward. So, Garik, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I am excited, too. I don't think we've dedicated a whole show to AI and the impact it possibly could have on our businesses. So I'm really excited to have an expert on the show to talk about it because I think it's already affecting all areas of our lives now. We're seeing it everywhere we go. I think something I saw the other day on a video was AI taking orders in a drive-through fast food restaurant, and it's like, okay, well, that's interesting. So I think AI is here. It's changing business, and you're here to help us understand it. So first of all, let's talk about the future. So where are some of the challenges and what are some of the challenges and threats that AI poses to society overall?
I think that the biggest worry is definitely the unknowns. Most of the known challenges, we have incredibly smart people. A lot of society is having their eyeballs on this. We're not starved for a lack of attention. Sometimes we're starved for a lack of the right incentives, but we're certainly not starved for attention on these problems, and incredibly smart, dedicated people are working on them. So the biggest problems are definitely the unknown problems. With that being said, the one that I think a lot of people will be feeling and are feeling is that the marginal cost of content has ultimately gone down to basically zero now.
Yeah.
So that has the split of both our attention becoming more easily frazzleable, where the stimulation has just been increasing ever more. But I'm not so worried about that, because ultimately society adapts to that in the sense of you only have so many hours in a day. You're essentially the algorithms, the news feeds, and your spam filters and all that stuff will begin to adapt to hopefully just give you more and more of the cream of the crop. People are now rewarded for really providing exceptional value because there's so much noise. So I think that in some ways that has a net positive. But what does worry me is a little more of the scam artists and the people who can create, scam and bad actors can now do that more easily at scale. So those are some of the worries that I think about, and really excited to see as kind of there's a seesaw back and forth, arms race on those kinds of things.
What's interesting is like today you can almost tell AI, you can almost see it, you can feel it. It's a little bit awkward, right? And it's just like I'm a Gen Xer, right? It's like the video games from my generation, they were crappy, right? They were stupid. And now you see the video games today, and you're like, holy cow, like, so it's like, a million X times what Space Invaders, right? And so I think today we sort of feel a little bit comfortable, like, well, we can sort of see AI, like we can see something that seems a little bit off. It's not quite 100% right yet, but soon it will be. And you won't be able to distinguish between like a human and an AI generated, either text or video or a photo, right? I mean, that's probably coming very shortly.
Yeah, I would argue that in a lot of ways it's already here. I mean, the AI was trained off the internet, and what no one I think quite suspected is that the internet is like 90% SEO trash, and so there's a lot of SEO articles that were had to write it 500 words and take this 200 word subject and kind of expand it out, and so a lot of what we get from AI is what you would expect from a SEO freelance writer, or from a student who had to write that 10-page paper by tomorrow. And so that's what we're getting a lot of. And right now, what OpenAI and other platforms are doing is they are not just trying to get more data at this point. They're trying to refine the data and get better data. Actually, I know that right now something's being tested that's a little bit scary, is they're actually trying to have some AIs only trained on good data, produce lots of it, and then have the bigger platform then consume that. It's a little bit questionable if that actually makes sense, but there's definitely a shift going on right now to be consuming better data, because right now AI writes like an SEO copywriter, and that's not great.
Yeah, and so like I said, today I think it seems as if we can sort of sense what it is and what it, where it is. But like I said, going forward, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Do you see that there's certain jobs that just sort of go away with AI's maturity? And I think of like creators. I'm a writer. I've written 3 books. Like now you can tell ChatGPT to write you a book, and and in the future it's going to be even better, I would imagine. So, I mean, so guys like me, like writers, we're out of business. I mean, what's going to happen to people who are content creators?
So I'm not worried about that at all. And there's a couple of insights that I have and some that I've been exposed to that make me think that's not the biggest worry. There's certainly, though, some industries are going to be impacted differently than others. And so I think it is really important to be aware of this. So to lay out a few different points on this. One is that AI isn't taking over a job, but it will be taking over excuse me.
Yeah.
It will be taking over tasks.
Yep.
So every job is a stack of tasks. It's pretty easy to imagine this. And ultimately we want the AI to be taking over those tasks that, ideally we don't want to be doing, that are grinding, etc. And then what that really means is that every job, it's not so much that jobs will go away and then new jobs will be created. It's that all of our jobs are going to begin to be transformed as certain tasks take over. There's actually a fantastic example of this before AI. When ATMs were widely adopted by banks, they did 80% of what bank tellers did. And so the obvious answer, the obvious panic at that point from bank tellers is, well, that's, 4/5 of us just gone because, now one person can do the work of 5. But after ATMs were widely adopted, and we can point to the decade, that decade didn't have any drop. In fact, the number of bank tellers actually went up because now banks could open up more locations. And so what we found is that in that case, the supply-demand curve, it was being constrained by the supply side, not by the demand side. Mm-hmm. And when I'm looking around, a lot of the jobs we're worried about are not constrained by demand, they're constrained by supply. I would love to have 10 times more developers than I have right now in my software company. That's something we specialize in actually recruiting developers because it's just such a hard challenge. And so that's the second insight. The third insight I would say out on this. Actually, I think I kind of embedded the third idea. I was going to go into how some of the tasks change, but I think I kind of embedded that already. So those are the 2 points I would say. And just to close out with one more thought here, a lot of people are worried about AI, taking their jobs or what have you. Their worry isn't on. I don't think it should be on the AI because the AI doesn't have a goal. It's not trying to do anything. Instead, really, the conversation, I think, as it comes more and more of a matured place, is how are we structuring society? How are we structuring companies and incentives to be taking care of people first and foremost, not just maximizing productivity in these smaller dimensions. And I think that does mean that people should be supported as they upskill, as they can take on reskilling and retooling. And I think that needs to be the focus. And the AI is not going to take your job, but maybe one person who's maximized AI can do the work 10 people. Like I think the call center agency, that's going to be a big force. And so I think not seeing AI as the enemy, but just as a new technological revolution, something that we need to harness like we've done with every other technological revolution, that's really the matured conversation we need to be having.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, the internet, ATM is a great example. The internet is another example. The internet. Oh, when that comes out there, where we're not going to need libraries anymore. We're not going to, we're not going to need this and that. And the other thing. Well, the thing is, what it has is it's just enhanced what we can do right on a daily basis. Like I have the world's knowledge in my pocket every day, everywhere I go. Right. I mean, this to me has enhanced my ability to do things in life. So I think if we think of this technology as to enhance the things that we're already doing, I think that's probably a better way to think about it. So what are some of the opportunities that AI provides in your opinion?
So AI at this point, I think the cleanest metaphor is that it's a workhorse for knowledge work. So, when you have, with modern day engines, we measure it in horsepower. What's the equivalent number of horses that this engine can do? And I think there's something similar here of, just like an engine, it can only, a horse is maybe a little more adaptable. You can put in more situations, more flexible, physically. But if you put that engine into the place, slot it into the place it's supposed to be, the amount of power and amount of revolutions it can do per minute is immense. With the AI, if you prompt it correctly, I'm not talking about just using it as a brainstorming assistant, even though that is absolutely, I think, one of the top use cases for it. As a personal assistant, it's one of the things I'm most excited about. But the way that I consult with businesses and team leaders is a little more on the automation side. That when you can slot AI with the right prompts, with the right automations in the specific, very key part of your business, you can automate things that before were not automatable, and then you can free up immense number of hours for your team to be doing their actual creative and fulfilling work.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I know, for example, I write books, and one of my books is in Spanish, and I didn't do the audio book for it because I don't speak Spanish. So I just sell the book. I don't sell the audio book. And then now Amazon now came out and said, hey, we've got this tool that will read your book in Spanish. And do you want to do it? I'm like, yeah. And that now I have a Spanish version of my audio book for my first book. And again, that's an example of like, something, again, it's a new thing that we never had before, right? That you can push a button. Now you have a Spanish version of your book. I talked to a guest last night, and he's taking all of his videos, all his training videos for leadership, and they're putting into 52 languages. They've created an AI twin of him, and it reads or presents all this leadership material in 52 different languages. So now they can take that same training program and deploy it into a global company into the local languages. And to me, I'm like, okay, that's really cool. I mean, these are things that are like we couldn't do before. Like we could, but it would be a hell of a lot of work to do that, right? To take, one presentation and do it in 52 languages. You're talking about, a lot of work, a lot of effort, but this is being done now with these AI twins. And I can see some really powerful things that you can do with that, with respect to global companies, for sure. How should business owners, so I mentioned when we started, before we press record, I run a business. I have a manufacturing business, been running it for 8 years. I've been thinking about AI, but, and we have a lot of different business owners who listen in on this show, but how should business owners and leaders in general be thinking about AI? How should they sort of think about this new technology?
The way I walk people through how they should be adding AI is to, first of all, know what it's good at, know what's possible. Play around with ChatGPT, play around with Midjourney and other tools out there. But then to take a step back from your business and forget AI for a moment. Just look at where are the biggest bottlenecks in your business. And that is easier to say for a more established business after some product market fit has been made, because before that point, your bottleneck is, I don't know, there's like 1,000 things going on. So in the startup phases, it'll be a different framework. But if your business is dialed in and is perhaps not a well-oiled machine, but is chugging along like a machine, there are steps in your business process, steps in your customer journey. You run a manufacturing business, so I'm sure you think about this a lot more purely than most business owners, or this is probably a lot more familiar to you. But seeing your business as a series of interlocking steps. I'm sure you've read the Goal by Eli Goldratt.
Of course. Yeah, we all have to. It's mandatory. If you've been in manufacturing, it's a mandatory reading for sure. Yeah.
And so I think that book applies to, so for your listeners outside of manufacturing, I think that book applies to all businesses. The idea is to find that one point in the process that is a bottleneck, and then optimize for that point. So you might, if you improve the wrong part of your process, let's say that your fulfillment is very, very difficult, and you focus on increasing sales, you probably made your business more problematic, not better.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you've optimized the wrong part. And so you want to take a step back, look at your metrics, look at your KPIs, find the one part of your business that is struggling. And I define struggling as either it's a bottleneck to growth, it's painful, just nobody likes doing it. It's just basically, you could say it's increasing employee churn because people don't like doing it. If you want to add a KPI to that. Third is just, QA problems are coming in. It's just messy work. And if those pains apply to that pain point, then you can say, okay, how can we add in AI into this? And that process is then all about looking at inputs and outputs. AI by its very nature is a bit of a black box. There are some really exciting developments just recently this month, in the month of May 2024, around being able to open that black box, but for the foreseeable future, it's very much still a black box. But if you can define its inputs and outputs, there's really nothing, I would argue, that it can't do. Everything that we're finding that it's struggling with is areas where the inputs and outputs for humans are very clear, but for the AI, it's not so clear. So if you can define that, then I think AI can be added into any business process, and then hopefully blow out that bottleneck in that part of your business. So that's the framework that I walk my clients through.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think about bottlenecks. We have bottlenecks in production, right? But one of the things I think of as a small business is one of the bottlenecks is me, like my technical expertise. That's how I have a company that produces a highly technical product, right? So I'm the guy that answers all the questions. I have that 30 plus years of knowledge in my head of technology and how it works. And that's a limiting factor in my company because I don't have many more of me, and I would love to be able to, take what's in this head and put it in some sort of an AI twin that could help me, talk to customers technically about our products, and answer those technical questions, which all have answers. There's a logical flow to answering every one of these questions. It's just right now, it's me and my memory and me and my experiences, right? And to me, like one way that could really help my business is that not everyone has to go to the technical expert to solve a problem, right? That there's a tool, like you said, inputs and outputs, but the intelligence of how to apply our products, how to use our products, which is the best product. That intelligence is built into the black box that could come up with, you put an input in, I've got this application, and it puts out, well, then you need this product, right? That would, to me, would be like a game changer. Like it would make my life so much better. It's not so much about even production. It's that knowledge thing that you mentioned, which is knowledge workers and that knowledge content.
I love that. Let's actually take that and just kind of expand on that as an example. So you are the bottleneck, and in some ways, that's a hard bottleneck to solve because the inputs and outputs are so messy. That's your day-to-day life. The inputs are everything you are seeing, everything that you're experiencing, and the outputs is everything that you say and all the problems that you solve. So in some ways, it's very much like AI is never going to replace you, but it can replace specific tasks.
Yeah,
and so the applying the framework to this. It would be, what are the tasks that are most painful, that have the most number of QA, or are the biggest bottlenecks to growth? And it kind of sounds like it's answering questions or things of that nature. Dealing with customer questions, employee questions, things there. And so at that point, probably the inputs are still pretty messy. The inputs have been massively reduced because it's no longer like everything you do in the business. It's specifically answering questions as a technical expert. And so if that was the problem that I was solving, how do we add AI into this? It would be, honestly, most of the work would be standardizing how those questions are asked. Basically, instead of saying, no, you don't accept emails, you don't accept chats, you only accept it through this form. Now, maybe that's a terrible medium. Maybe it should be, Slack messages instead or whatever. But it would be standardizing to one place. And then we'd be asking ourselves, okay, if it's now in that standardized format, is that going to capture 70% of the messy, painful, or bottlenecked questions?
Yeah.
And if so, we're probably in a good place. If it's like, no, the client that takes up most of my time would never accept that. He's always just going to email me or call me up on the phone, and that will never work. Say, okay, well, let's look at this differently. But let's assume that would work. Then the question will be, okay, we've now standardized the inputs. They're going to always put in the same spot. They're going to expect the output, in that same spot. Now, can we add the AI black box in this? And that's an open question. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. But at this point, you can create your own AI knowledge base. So you can create your, like, it's kind of like custom GPTs, right? You can make your own custom GPT, add in a knowledge base. That could be a document that you write, like your entire product lineup. It could also just be manuals, literally just textbooks on electrical engineering or other engineerings. Add all that into the AI, and then the AI will first, before it checks its global knowledge for an answer, it will always check the knowledge base first, or try to factor the data from the knowledge base into the answer. And then that AI can then start answering questions, hopefully in a way that would be at a high quality. And so, of course, in the very beginning, you would first walk through the AI. And this is something you can all do yourself with just custom GPTs and things on the market. Like, this isn't like a thing you have to build from scratch or work with a company like mine to build. But then the next step, and so I'm hoping your listeners are finding this valuable because it's showing a real use case. Initially, you would then just measure, okay, I'm not going to have the chatbot obviously respond without me first seeing it. I don't trust it that much. So for the first 3 months, the only question is this going to save me time, because I will spend less time editing its messages rather than writing them totally from scratch. And so that would be the measurement. And hopefully then we've taken the most painful, takes the most amount of your time thing, and hopefully reduce those number of hours there. So that would be kind of the framework that would apply to that kind of what you said.
Yeah, it makes sense. And again, it goes back to what you originally said. It's not going to be eliminating jobs. What it's going to be doing is taking some of the labor-intensive, kind of grunt work, maybe, and automating it to the point where, okay, well, I've got something smart here that can answer certain questions. So 80% of my, the questions I answer can be automated, and I've got that sort of set up now. And then I can kind of focus on the 20% that are difficult. And so that makes a lot of sense to me. So it's not like AI is going to replace me, but it's going to maybe help me to be able to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's the dream that we're in.
So do you have any examples of where maybe companies are using AI and they're able to get growth or success by implementing some of these AI tools?
Most of the use cases, I would say, in 2023, have been people using AI tools to increase their own productivity. One thing I'm really excited for is to be able to 10 years from now look backwards and see GDP growth spikes when certain, like maybe GPT 5 has released, and all of a sudden there's a GDP spike. Probably we haven't been able to see that in 2023, 2024. It's hard to say how much of that, though, has been just because of the inertia of society. And it's probably a good thing that, like, it takes time for humans to adapt. So I think the story of how we're using even these same tools in the future is going to be very different from the stories we've had in the past. But so far, like I said, most of what I've been seeing from the day-to-day, mom and pop stores out there have been individuals becoming a lot more productive with the tools. What I think is in the near-term future, what more companies will be doing things like what we just walked through, of using AI as a member of your team to do specific tasks. But those tasks have to be things where the inputs and outputs are very, very clear, but then automating things that you couldn't automate before. And I think that's going to be very exciting, as it's going to free up a lot of people, especially in the beginning, just in the knowledge space, to be doing better work.
Yeah. I think it's exciting. It's an exciting time because all of these technologies are sort of converging at this point. So, voice to text and you've got the video and the fact that we have, the ability to do video chats around the world and all this stuff, which is kind of interesting because it's sort of like COVID, for example, is a great example. Like COVID hit at an interesting time when the technology was available to do remote work. Otherwise, remote work would have never worked, right? And so the technology was there at a time when we needed it. And it seems like to me there's a number of different technologies that are converging at the same time. So the speed at which we send audio and video, over the internet, the just like I said, the voice to text, the language translators and all this sort of thing are all coming at the same time. So now you've got the brains behind, some of the stuff. And as you say, we have to program it. We have to design it. But the brains are now behind all of these other applications. And it's all kind of converging at one time. It's really an exciting time to be alive. And I don't think 10 years from now, we will recognize the world, because I think it's going to shift that much in 10 years. I mean, do you feel the same way?
I think it's going to shift dramatically. The way I look at it, humans are still super fascinating in humans. Like when we basically made the best chess bot that could beat the best human player, and we improved it even after that. We didn't watch chess bots play chess bots. Like we for some reason still like Magnus Carlsen. Like we still like to watch chess players. And so I think a lot of things are going to be dramatically improved, and a lot of disruption is going to be coming. But I think that humans are still just going to be obsessed with humans, and I think that there's going to be a lot of things that are going to stay the same, which I'm sure you can appreciate as well. But I think that we'll still be living our lives, and be not utopia, not dystopia, probably somewhere just down the middle.
I think you're right. I think we're going to really appreciate. For example, I've seen a lot of like on social media, you see a lot of people crafting like furniture and art and things that only that are really unique to humans. And I think those things will become kind of special. For example, for Christmas, my father made birdhouses for all the family. And it was this handmade thing that was really cool the way he made them. And everyone got one. And so we all have one at our house. And it's something that my father made us all, right? I think those things, the human things that you get, or the human, the things that you see that are just pure, that are not, AI driven or, generated, are going to be like, we're going to see and appreciate, I would think. And we'll see the uniqueness of them. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense, but I do think that we will always be drawn to other humans. I think and I think that'll be kind of interesting to see. Those things will be elevated. I think people who have the jobs like, we talk about plumbers and welders and painters and things that, they are going to be elevated. Those jobs will be, more respected than maybe an accountant, for example, where a lot of accounting may get automated in the future. And so, the guy that can actually weld pieces of metal and fix things, well, those are be more valuable, going forward. So it's kind of interesting to see what will happen. Do we need a college degree? And what does higher education look like going forward? Right.
There's two threads there I want to pull on just for a second.
Sure.
I completely agree. I think we need to do a big cultural reshuffling on the dignity of a lot of blue collar jobs. So I think a lot of blue collar jobs are going to be a hell of a lot harder to automate with AI, and a lot of people I think we're starved for a lot of those people right now, and so I think that we definitely want to be elevating those as we just need a lot more of them. That's just the economics of it. And the second thing that you were saying was just how humans, like say the birdhouse, like you were just, it was a beautiful thing. I think people like myself and like my younger self, very engineering mindset, very left brain, don't fully appreciate that. But a huge moment, there was a light bulb moment in my head, is like, if you watch the Teletubbies, the sun has a face on it. And like as babies, we think of like parents as the world far before we see the world as an objective place. We see things as humanity's embedded inside of it. And so, Jordan Peterson kind of talks about this. Like, you don't see a cliff, you see a falling off place. You don't see a glass or ceramic, you see a thing to drink from. You see things for more than just the physical matter, but instead what it's used for and the story of what's going to be used in the future, and the story of where it's come from. And the way that I look at that is that if I listen to a song and that is like AI wrote this in the style of Taylor Swift, and like it's a bop to it, sure, I might listen to it, but unless I'm listening to be productive or I'm listening to it for some purpose, my brain can't connect, even if I'm hearing it emotionally and hitting the emotional notes. If I'm aware, and maybe there's just a part here, just like if you are making AI, just like lie, just like say it's from Taylor Swift then. But then of course the problem is people will know you're lying because it's fucking not Taylor Swift. And so, where do indie bands go is, I think, is a fantastic question. I kind of want to go down that detour now, but back to my core point. We are obsessed with humans, and we connect with humans on a deeper level, and that's baked into us neurologically. And I think that's from the babies to the grown-ups. And so I think that is a very engineering argument for was probably going to be one of our saving graces. So that's how I see that.
Yeah, I think you're right too. I think we're this uncanny valley. We can sense it, and it's a weird thing, but we just have this ability to sort of see fake or see. But I don't know in the future. It'll be interesting because certainly some things I've seen and go, wow, that's really good. That's exceptional. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Well, even if it's exceptional, I think we're still going to be loving the artist. Like even when the chess bot plays as well as a human, we still want to watch the human play.
Well, we're going to root for the human, right? Aren't we? I mean, I feel like we will,
Well, at this point, we just watch humans play other humans. Like we just said, okay, cool. The AI solved the problem. And now we just kind of put it to the side. Like now it's just more of a triviality. That's how I think a lot of things are going to go with art and with human expression.
Yeah, interesting. Well, what final message would you like to leave with our listeners today?
Just that we've gone through massive disruptions technologically before, that if you look at history, while things are always a little bit different, things still come and go in rhythm. Ray Dalio talks about that in his book. If any of your listeners are interested in investment, that's fantastic. His book, Principles, is a fantastic thing to check out. But history comes and goes in cycles, and I think that we're in a unique time in history, but we're not in quite of a spectacularly different, extinction level sort of situation as people might think, and that just focus on your unique value, focus on your family, focus on your community, and I think there's a lot more evidence that we're heading to a better place rather than a less good place on the technology front.
I love it. That's a great message, a great optimistic message from Garik. And I do agree with him. I do see this as a tool that's going to get us better, just like the internet did, just like ATMs did. It's going to make us be able to do more and be able to achieve things that we never thought possible. So it'll be an exciting time for sure. And I'm glad I'm here and alive to see it, because it's the amount of things. I'm of the age I didn't grow up with the internet. And so now I'm seeing AI and I'm like, wow, this is just wild. So it's kind of a cool time to be alive. So again, business leaders, as you're listening in, think about this. Think about AI. Think about your processes that are time consuming and they're your bottlenecks, and how can you automate that, make it better? So how can you do more with AI? So Garik, this has been great. How can listeners find out more about you and your company?
Yeah, thanks, John, for having me. This was a lot of fun. For your audience, I would just say if you're looking for a partner to increase your business valuation, or just need help building a software application that uses AI, then you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or for more information about how we build software teams, you can check out my website, valhalla.team. And that's it for now. I have a few other projects in the works, but I'll announce those on LinkedIn or other platforms later, so you can follow me for updates on that.
Very good. We're going to put links to show notes in the show notes for all of Garik's resources. And again, if AI is something you're curious about, if we only just whet your appetite and you've got deeper questions, I'm not the guy to talk to. Garik is the guy to talk to. That's why we're going to put his contacts in here in the show notes. Reach out to Garik and ask him some questions. And especially if you got a company and you want to automate some of those difficult tasks using AI, Garik's the guy to do that. And reach out to him and find out more and see if he can help you basically harness this new power of AI to be more effective in your organization. Garik, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing this interesting topic. I love it. It's fun. I'm an old guy trying to figure it out, but I think it's a really exciting time. So thank you for bringing your expertise onto Deep Leadership.
Thank you, John, for having me. This was fun.
Thank you again. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, please visit our website at www.deepleadershippodcast.com or johnsrennie.com. Until next time, take care.
Welcome to Transforming 45, the podcast that celebrates the incredible power of passionate voices. I'm your host, Lisa Boat. Join me in conversation with heart-led humans who share their deeply personal stories of transformation. Transforming 45 is here to uplift, connect, and remind you that it's never too late to write your next chapter. So get ready to be inspired, empowered, and transformed. Join me in this community where through powerful storytelling, we heal and reclaim our inherent magic.
Electricast. Hi, I'm Lessa Cadet, host of her Extraordinary Life by Design podcast, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I speak with women from all over the world about what they do and how they are passionately pursuing their dreams and creating meaningful impacts on their communities. So come join us and learn about all there is to learn about these extraordinary women.